Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want. Your weekly movement news roundup.
Hello, everybody. It's the 1st of December, and welcome to the latest episode of Give the People What They Want with me, with Zoe and I from People's Dispatch. Vijay is not there this time. He's been traveling on a reporting assignment, and last week, again, due to various scheduling issues, we could not do the show, but we're back this week. So much has been happening over the past 2 weeks, really, kind of tough to keep yourself updated. So much news has been happening. Unfortunately, we are here today with news which we were hoping not to have to talk about, which is that the truce in Gaza is no longer in place. Friday, today being Friday morning local time, Israel resumed its horrific bombardment of Gaza once again. As we speak, the death toll has definitely already crossed 100. Hundreds have been injured. The same kind of destruction that was wreaked on Gaza for the first 48 days after October 7 has once again resumed. Now we know that there was a 7-day truce that first was scheduled for 4 days, then there was a 2-day extension, and then a 1-day extension, during which Palestinian prisoners, most of them women and children who had been kept in prison for a very long time, were released. Israel was forced to release them in exchange for some of the captives who were taken hostage, and of course, discuss some amount of humanitarian aid was also let in. Definitely, absolutely not enough to sort of meet even basic requirements. I think 150 trucks a day were let in, whereas even a minimum requirement would have called for 200 trucks. But at least there was some respite, some amount of relief material going in, and especially vital considering the how badly hospitals, how badly schools, how badly bakeries, all of them had been hit during that 48 days of attack. But and also we also saw that people were able to go back. Some people at least were able to go back to their homes in the northern part of Gaza, try to sort of salvage whatever remained out of there. Very, again, a lot of pictures also coming out of the extent of brutality that took place over there. Important to note, of course, that the US administration, at least sources in the US administration, were concerned when the truce was first announced that the truce would enable journalists to actually reveal the extent of the destruction in Gaza, and some of them expressed their concern. That really kind of really shows what is going on in the minds of US officials. And but to come back, what we also saw was that this truce provided a breather to some people for a very brief while. But after 7 days, once again, the attacks have resumed, and it is unclear as of now if they will. Although reports say that everyone, apparently, all the mediators, US, Qatar, Egypt, have indicated they do want an extension of the truce, but the important thing to note is that there is no clarity on whether it will take place at all. Of course, both Israel and the US have blamed Hamas for it, but as those following the news know, the question here is definitely much larger. And so much has been happening in Gaza. So many important reports have come out in recent times. There's a very unfortunate report in 972 mag, which talks, for instance, about the how Israel has planned its bombing of Gaza in the 48 days, the kind of strategies it has used, and it is astounding because of how it shows the sheer inhumanity of this whole process, whereby an apartment complex with hundreds of people could be bombed just because the suspicion that someone from Hamas could be there, as though that justifies it, and also that what are called power targets such as universities or apartment complexes could be bombed, so that apparently that would create some kind of pressure on Hamas. And this really shows the genocidal nature of the war that has been taking place in Gaza right now. So it's very difficult to sort of at this point say what is going to happen. Whether some of these discussions will whether some of these discussions will bear fruit. But a couple of important things to note. One is that alongside Gaza, we have also had continuing attacks in the occupied West Bank, in occupied East Jerusalem as well. In fact, I believe that almost the same number of people were arrested in the occupied West Bank as prisoners were released during the time of this prisoner exchange process as well. And those who have been following our show, those who have been following the news, know that this is an issue we've talked about a lot. The arbitrary nature of arrests by how Israel has arbitrarily arrested Palestinians. And I think many of the Palestinian prisoners who came out during that time also narrating some of the stories of the kind of hardship they face, the kind of horrible treatment they face since October 7th. But also important to note that this has been a moment for many of them of highlighting their resistance. In fact, a lot of visuals of Palestinian prisoners being released during this time, pointing to the fact that the victory of the spirit, the kind of mass celebrations that took place at that point of time, despite Israeli threats, really a testament to the determination, to the defiance of Palestinians who have been imprisoned, who have been attacked, who have faced all kinds of atrocities during this point of time. So a very difficult time once again for the people of Gaza. The bombing continues to be brutal. I believe Israeli forces have dropped leaflets in southern Gaza asking people to leave. Really, leave where? I mean, that's the important question over there. They've apparently released maps which delineate northern Gaza into segments, because that is apparently how they plan to push out people. And all of this, I think, it's kind of shocking because the ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan is also in the region. And all of these explicit war crimes that are being done with the assistance or with the support of especially many governments in the global north, which have backed Israel to the hilt, are going completely unrecognized, are going completely unpunished. So this is where we are right now. We'll see what the coming days bring.
Yeah, I think the key point that you said there, Prashanth, is that all of this is happening with complete support and backing of governments across the global north, especially, of course, of the US government, which has not only continued to provide billions of dollars of aid, but has been a crucial political ally. And important to note that as Israel broke this truce, as Israel broke this temporary pause and resumed its bombing of Gaza, Antony Blinken was actually in Israel meeting with Israeli officials. In several statements, he said that if ground invasions are resumed, so he's already sort of supposing that this is going to happen, that Israel should try to protect civilians. So he's willing to say that they should try to protect civilians, but clearly has no at that point, even the negotiations that his government was mediating really had no hope for that being extended. We know that there has been increased pressure on the U.S. government to actually call for a ceasefire, but it has really failed to do so beyond the lukewarm statements like the ones from Antony Blinken about the need to protect civilians. Joe Biden saying that, I think he tweeted 2 days back saying that Hamas is the people who want a return to war. And so to not give in to Hamas's wishes, there should be some sort of peace, which is an extremely devoid of facts statement and a backhanded way of saying that there needs to be a ceasefire. However, his government does not have the political will and is clearly not really interested in actually maintaining this peace. At this week, also, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill in Congress, one affirming Israel's right to defend itself and its right to exist, and also critically attacking its own population by equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. We know this is a extremely intense debate amongst kind of the political elites. Most people know that the two are not the same. They are quite literally very different. Anti-Zionism is about opposing a political ideology, about opposing a project, a genocidal and settler colonial project. And it has been used by the right wing, and not even just by the right wing, but by both political parties, by the greatest allies of Israel to try to stifle and censor all criticism of Israel, all criticism of Zionism, all criticism of the Zionist lobby in the United States. And especially on college campuses, we've seen that there has been this severe crackdown on any Palestine solidarity organizing. We know that at Columbia University, like at many other universities, for example, the Students for Justice for Palestine was banned, Jewish Voice for Peace was banned. Somehow banning a Jewish organization is not anti-Semitic. And so we're seeing that, as Israel is already ramping up for war, already beginning its genocidal war once again against the people of Gaza, the U.S. political establishment, both parties completely are giving all political signals to say that Israel should completely go ahead. It's important to point out that progressive members of the House, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Jamal Bowman, other members of the self-declared squad actually did vote for this resolution, equating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism, reaffirming Israel's right to exist. So it's looking pretty bleak in terms of U.S. politicians once again giving a carte blanche to Israel. This does not reflect the sentiments of the people. All major polls done by mainstream outlets such as Reuters indicate that over 60% of U.S. voters from both parties support a ceasefire. And these overwhelming numbers apparently have not been enough to convince even progressive politicians like Bernie Sanders to support a ceasefire wholeheartedly. And we've seen the impact of this complete support of the political establishment behind Israel. People were horrified to find out last weekend that 3 Palestinian students were shot in the state of Vermont, again, a progressive stronghold, allegedly. This is the home state of Bernie Sanders, who has really shown perhaps his true colors throughout these past 2 months. These students were shot because they were speaking Arabic, because 2 of them were wearing keffiyehs on the street. This happens in a climate where, again, the complete U.S. political establishment and mainstream media is parroting these Zionist talking points, dehumanizing Palestinians, justifying Israel's massacre of Palestinians. And once again, this goes in complete opposition to what we're seeing in these mainstream media polls, but also on the streets. And that's what I wanted to talk about before we move to another story, is that consistently for the past 2 months, people across the world have been mobilizing, have been demanding a ceasefire, have been demanding that Israel actually respect international humanitarian law, that it lift the siege on Gaza, that humanitarian aid be let in. I mean, so many extremely clear demands that leaders from the global north, and especially from the United States, have essentially ignored. We're seeing some of the highest levels of consistent mobilization in recent history. On Wednesday, on the November 29th, the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, there were hundreds of mobilizations, hundreds of actions held, again, by, of course, Palestinian solidarity groups who historically mobilized, but even by sectors that haven't been mobilized for this cause before. We're seeing a record number of students, of educators, of healthcare workers, understanding that defending Palestine right now means defending humanity. As you spoke about, Prashant, the unprecedented attack on healthcare infrastructure has been devastating and has really woken people up to the reality of what the Zionist project seeks to do, which is to eliminate all life from Gaza, which is to eliminate people's possibility to even survive this genocidal attack. So we're definitely seeing a sea change amongst the people of the world, but the world leaders are unwilling and too slow to actually really respond to this and to really abide by these demands.
Right, Zoe. This is, like I said, I think a story which we will continue to report on, both on text. So do visit our website, peoplesdispatch.org, where every day we have updates also on issues such as the health situation, for instance, in Palestine, which our friends at People's Health Dispatch are chronicling. The question of media, I think if I'm not mistaken, one of the victims killed today, one of the persons Palestinians killed today was actually a journalist as well. The attack on so many sections of society, on children, on women, on every sector of society, the indiscriminate and brazen attacks that are taking place. We'll be covering them very regularly. You're watching Give the People What They Want, and brought to you by People's Dispatch and Globetrotter. And Zoe was talking about the reluctance of leaders across the world to heed the demands of the people on the streets. And I think this, in some ways, segues very well to our next story, which is about a very similar issue, the reluctance of leaders, the reluctance of corporate heads to heed to the urgent demands of our time, because we know that the 28th Conference of Parties, or COP28, has kicked off in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. Now, I think maybe it's especially since COP26 in Glasgow that the COP meetings have become something that has kind of emerged in popular imagination much more. There's been a lot of discussion, there's a lot of media frenzy around it. Top leaders from across the world, many of whom have had extremely disastrous climate policies, nonetheless coming there to sort of use that as an opportunity to show their progressive side or show their futuristic side or whatever. But this this COP really kind of throws a lot of important questions at us. It's especially significant because there is a global stocktake report which came out recently. Now, there are a lot of questions about what is going to be done about this global stocktake. The global stocktake test is a very simple thing, which is that we are definitely nowhere close to meeting the targets we have set in order to address the question of climate change. We are definitely behind as far as all these targets are concerned. There is still a window to achieve them, but it calls for radical action. And but radical action is not really what we're trying to, what we're expecting or seeing from leaders across the world. There are a lot of statements, definitely, but definitely no radical action. So uh, that definitely is one big question that it lies ahead of us, because this global stocktake report will lead to renewed pledges, or will be the basis of renewed pledges in 2025. What these pledges will be, what they will achieve, really is, I think, a question staring at all of humanity. It's not just one country or two country or one some sections of the people. It's a question for all of humanity as well. So definitely, that is one aspect of it. Another key aspect is the loss and damage fund, which was adopted, but with severe reservations among kind of countries, especially from the global south, from the activists, because it's going to be the World Bank that will administer it. And right now, the money is just beginning to sort of flow in. Now, we know that initially, some years ago, 100 billion every year was committed for the poorer countries. The global north had committed that money, and that money never really came. A very small fraction of that money came, and there are many similar fears with the loss and damage fund as well. So all of this, sorry, all of this put together, raising some very serious questions as to what COP28 is going to achieve. Will it be just a moment for leaders from across the world to come and make important statements about the importance of combating it but not achieving too much? What will happen to the target of 1.5 degrees? What will happen to the target of 2 degrees? Will countries of the global north continue what has long been their strategy, which is to say that forget our historical responsibility. Now all the responsibilities on the developing countries, because their population is much more. They're producing a lot of greenhouse gases, so they should they should pay exactly the same. They should pay the price in some senses for the crimes of the developed countries or the actions of the developed countries over the centuries. So the question of differentiated responsibilities, which really is the fundamental benchmark, which has been the basis of all these discussions so far, has been diluted over the years. And the global north, countries of the global north, have used all kinds of strategies to sort of evade their historical responsibilities, to wriggle out of their historical responsibility, and now present and make it seem like this is everyone's problem at the same level. And I think that is the fundamental question that countries of the global south, activists, all of them are going to be pushing throughout these 2 weeks, of course, in which the COP28 is being held, but also to the rest of the year, because it's climate change is not just about one conference. It is about a continuing process, a continuing battle that has to be fought. And part of the battle is through measures such as scientific, through technology, through development. All these are important parts of this battle on trying to combat the release of these kind of gases. But part of it is also a historical battle a battle against historical oppression. Part of it is a battle against colonialism and its impact as well. And I think that is what we need to center when we talk about climate change, that this notion of it being some kind of an umbrella issue or an ahistorical issue, that notion is what we need to continuously keep fighting as well, so that there is a just transition in every sense of the term, in historical senses as well. The word just transition is used a lot, but what does true justice in this context actually mean? So that's COP28. Again, we're following it. It's just the early days. I think it's just started right now. So we're going to be seeing some very, very, very heated discussions in the coming days as well. We'll be closely tracking it. We'll have interviews with experts. So do keep following us at People's Dispatch to find out more about this.
Well, we're back to a favorite topic, which is elections in Latin America. We hadn't had a show since Javier Milei was elected president of Argentina. He's going to be sworn in on December 10th, and already there's been confirmations that the leader of the Vox party in Spain, the far-right party, will be attending. Other people are confirming as the days go on. Jair Bolsonaro, importantly. And we talked about what Javier Milei means, what he represents. And really, I think that the reaction from many progressive sectors has been of surprise that he was elected. As we mentioned on the show before, his proposals are extremely, extremely out there in terms of just a radical change in how Argentine society and politics work. He wants to dissolve the central bank. He wants to dollarize the economy. He wants to cut, dozens of ministries and threaten the way the government currently functions. He announced, I think just yesterday, that he wants to pass an omnibus law, which would have some 500 decrees, which would to be able to deregulate the economy. He says that he wants to unleash the economy and be able to develop the productive forces. But as we know, the complete deregulation of the economy, especially a very protected one as Argentina, will have disastrous consequences. There's so many different elements to this, and I think that again, the initial response to his election was of a lot of fear, of a lot of self-criticism from progressive forces. How did it get to this situation where someone with such a menacing proposal, who's actually really promised not only a situation of stagflation, he's actually said this, that he expects that in the first period of his government, because of the austerity policies, because of the economic policies he wants to take forward, that there will be an extended period of the currency devaluation and continued inflation, but also that he's promised to worsen austerity. And it's these austerity policies that were undertaken by Mauricio Macri that put the Argentine economy in the current situation that it's in today. And the fact that he was able to win and gain popular support, and let's remember, he actually beat Sergio Massa by over 10 points. This was not a close call. This was not a almost technical tie. This was a clear and resounding victory. I think that has brought questions to many people's minds, especially, the fact that this centrist position taken by Sergio Massa, taken by Alberto Fernandez, of trying to appease the centrist forces, trying to appease both maybe the soft right and the center left, was clearly not able to convince the people. Clearly, it was a proposal that was not responding to the people's needs. And let's remember that the poverty level in Argentina currently is over 40%. Inflation in 2022 was 100%. In the coming days, I'm sure we're going to see the inflation statistics for 2023, which could be even worse. Sergio Massa, right at the end of his campaign period, started to implement a series of different economic measures to try to attend to these very real economic material needs of the people. But I think that what these results tell us is that it was too little too late, and the real denigration of people's conditions and of the situation in the country extends far beyond the immediate material needs, and really gets to kind of a rejection of politics in general, and of kind of a whole political group that was unable to resolve the people's needs. Let's remember that Sergio Massa was also the economy minister under Alberto Fernandez, currently still serving. So it's clear that his association with this government, even though in campaign period he really tried to distance himself from this, did not do him any favors. So it's definitely a moment of, we're going to see a lot of rebuilding. It's going to be a moment of resistance. Javier Milei has also made serious and considerable threats against the human rights organizations in the country, saying that social justice is ridiculous, and that rights such as public education, free healthcare, all of those should not be guaranteed. And so we're going to see a period of intense struggle in Argentina, of intense struggle of social movements and organizations reorganizing, remobilizing their people to resist these attacks. The negation of, for example, the crimes of the dictatorship. This is something that touches Argentine people very deeply. So he gets sworn in on December 10th, and then I think we're going to see exactly how far he will go. How much is he going to actually fulfill some of the more ridiculous promises that he made and some of these campaign statements that he made? But it is going to be an extremely difficult period for the Argentine people.
Right, Zoe. And our last story for the day is actually something on almost similar lines across the Atlantic in the Netherlands, where Geert Wilders, his party has emerged a very right wing, far right wing. Earlier it used to be called far right wing, but now in many places they're so part of the mainstream. I don't know if that term even makes sense anymore, but definitely a far right wing politician. His party emerges as the single largest party in the elections held recently in the Netherlands. The party is called PVV, and Wilders has been in the political scene in the Netherlands for a long time, actually, and his extreme views are really a matter of public record. There's nothing hidden about them. He's come up with some extremely dangerous proposals. You would almost call them rabble rousing, except for the fact that this is a politician who's been around for so many years, leading a party that gets a substantial amount of vote. He's, especially very strongly Islamophobic comments, very strongly anti-immigrant comments. Talked about severe austerity policies, for instance, and has always thrived on actually taking the debate in the most extreme directions, which is why often comparisons are made to Donald Trump, although in that way Wilders has been in the political spectrum for much longer. Now, during the course of this campaign, of course, he apparently moderated some of these positions, and the people say that that's one reason. Ex-analysts say that's one reason why more people might have been inclined to vote for him. But I think an important thing, actually, from what Zoe was saying, what happened in Argentina is also the fact that Wilders' victory clearly points to the failure of the center to sort of, to in any way address some of the key issues that have are really plaguing people's lives. The impact of these neoliberal policies. Now, in the case of countries like Argentina, many of these neoliberal policies are imposed on them by international financial institutions. The Netherlands is one of the richest countries, in Europe. So the question there is then that why are these neoliberal policies encouraged? We had a prime minister who's been in power for quite a long time, I believe 13 years or so, Mark Rutte, who's consistently imposed these policies, who consistently bungled various aspects of governance. There was corruption, there was mass mismanagement, etc., etc. And all of this together created a context where anti-systemic views in the form of somebody like Wilders or a protest vote ended up in the hands of a dangerous right-wing character like Wilders. And I think the fundamental question there again boils down to this: that how long, will it be before people, before even it's a question to the center that they might want to address as well, if they care about it. That how long, for instance, will you continue with these absurd policies of neoliberalism, of basically destroying people's livelihoods, of creating policies which are leading to increasing inflation, while the super rich benefit. This is specifically a case in the Netherlands as well. Corporate profiteering has been, really soaring. So across the world, we see this corporate profiteering soaring. People on the streets are really struggling to make a living. right-wing figures coming in and always blaming the outside. It could be the immigrant, it could be somebody from a religious minority, and then capitalizing on these conditions. And then you have all these people, sort of people from the center, people, liberals, for instance, turning back and saying, "How did this happen that such a right-wing character comes to power?" Whereas the answer has been there all along. So Argentina and the Netherlands, I think, in some cases, very different countries, very different contexts, but nonetheless, I think posing this fundamental question. We're going to see many countries facing these questions in the coming months and years as well, unfortunately, because this is a global failure, just as climate change is a global failure, just as the international failure to address the issue, address the question of Israel's policies is a global failure. All these are questions, I think, that need to sort of be that all these are questions that we need to sort of keep asking, I think, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we keep doing it. Give the people what they want. That's what we try to do every week with our reporting. So please do visit peoplesdispatch.org. Please do read everything from Globetrotter, a lot of very interesting articles as well. And we'll come back next week with a fresh episode, which are also probably likely to be there. So we will continue tracking, I think, many of these issues that we took up today as well. So see you next week.